Mona, how are you?
Good evening. I'm
Oh,
very
yeah.
well, thank
So we
you.
are very excited to host you in this lovely interview. I can see the positivity in your face as an interpreter and as a translator. I have to admit that the interview that you had recently on TV was just perfect. You
Thank you very much.
just nailed it when it comes to the ABCs of translation slash interpretation. And I'm going to leave the floor to you to introduce yourself and with a spice of Arabic and English mix so we can, tap on the experience that you have and to reach out for the mass community of translators, specifically the beginners who are, dabbling in the field of interpretation. So
Yeah.
the floor is yours. The ball is in your court.
Thank you very much. My name is Mona Khlefat. I am an interpreter, a linguist, and I have my translation and event management agency, Dialogue Edge, and we've been there in the market since 2009. It's a fully woman-owned business.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's wonderful. Ms. Muna, tell us a little bit about how you started your career as an interpreter and translator, or should I say translator and interpreter later?
You can say both. That's because I myself do translation and interpretation, but not necessarily that people who do interpretation do
Which one is
translation.
closer to your heart?
Interpretation.
Tell me more.
Okay.
It's challenging.
Interpretation.
People say it's a very treacherous territory for people, to navigate it. So, what's your say to that kind of statement?
It is a very it's a very exciting neural exercise. It's
Mm,
a cognitive exercise, if we can say that. So yeah, I like the challenge of it. But of course, translation is also very important, and I like it when I delve into these
mm,
big documents and, important projects and important declarations, maybe.
mm.
Yes, that like for example, I translated the recommendations of the Royal Committee on the Modernization of the systems in Jordan, and that was a very
Wow.
interesting piece, actually. Mm.
Very impressive. I could see that through the years, the consecutive years that I worked as an interpreter and as a translator. Um, you as a person, how did you start chiseling up your level of language to make it so professional to the level? I mean, I sometimes I say we're not perfect, but we should be professional when it comes to delivering a cutting edge level of interpretation to the target audience, especially considering the fact the huge amount of differences between the English culture and background of the speakers and language and the richness of Middle East
Mm.
and the wide gamut of differences between English and Arabic. So how could you over the let's wind back to the beginning of your career as a translator and slash interpreter. I mean, we use them interchangeably. How did you improve yourself to the level of becoming a translator slash interpreter?
Okay. First of all, I have an MA degree in linguistics.
Mm,
So I already have this passion for languages, and I love Arabic. I love Arabic. I'm good in Arabic, I'd say.
mm,
Of course, not in speaking. All of us are good in speaking Arabic, but I'm good. I love the language, and when you love language, actually, you find out that you love languages.
mm.
So yes, and English. Like I've always been proficient in English. In Jordan, it's common to be proficient in English.
Since
And
which year specifically, if I may
oh
ask?
yeah, are we getting there?
Yeah.
2005.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm not trying to figure out the age, but I'm
You have
saying
already.
that
You have already.
I cannot tell by the look, by the way. Of course, you're still young in this career, and inshallah, all the prosperous years to come,
Same to
for you. Um, let's move into some practical tips for beginners, people who are
you.
trying to be enrolled in the field of translation and interpretation courses, or specialization. There's
Mm,
so much talk online,
mm,
especially nowadays with the advent of AI and the interference and overlap of modern technology, and maybe the replacement of AI to real translators slash interpreters. I'm waiting for your comment on that matter and how you see the translator or the interpreter as a trajectory. How can they improve themselves to be to that level of task achievement?
mhm. Okay, that's a package of questions. Let me start with the
Yeah.
first. Let me start with the first. Okay. Now, as an interpreter, you need to be really, really good in both languages.
Mm,
You need to be a person who loves to read. You can be an interpreter who doesn't read, but that really affects your performance.
definitely. I
Yeah,
concur.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, you start the practice. I would say I took up document translation before being an
Mm,
interpreter, and I found that useful in my uh, in my practice as an interpreter. And yeah, this is where I started. Actually, I started shadowing interpreters, and I learned a lot from that exercise. And then I started to do things on my own. I
mm.
jumped in water and I started swimming.
Okay.
And I started to improve since
Um,
then. I started to wear
talking,
since
you
then.
know, talking about swimming, there are often common mistakes that interpreters may make in the beginning of their journey of learning the
Mhm.
job, the profession, and the occupation of a translator. Maybe this is a two-pronged kind of question, but what are the habits that they should work really hard on? And what are the mistakes that you can give them a tip to, avoid? Sometimes mistakes can reshape you and chisel you to a better version
Or
because
they
we
do.
learn from mistakes, of course, and these challenges can reshape us. I do believe that what challenges you may change you or can change you. So, what are the habits that you have followed that proved really effective uh, to make you the better version of you as an interpreter? And what are the mistakes that uh, interpreters can avoid in the beginning of their journey of learning?
Mhm. Okay, to start with, I would advise people who are willing to jump into this field or
Mm-hmm.
to become interpreters to do the following. Interpretation is about reception and production.
Okay.
So the first thing you need to train your brain is to take the content in and
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously produce it.
Okay.
When you do interpretation in the booth, the take in is audio. Now, in order to start training your brain on the first step, which is taking in and producing
Mm,
simultaneously, then you need to do something that is easier than listening,
mm,
at least to me. It's easier for me to read and interpret as I read.
mm.
So my practice was to have a text in Arabic and read it in English and the
Okay.
other way.
And
That helped.
the other way around.
Mhm, mhm.
Mm,
That helped a lot because it trained my brain to be able to take in and to produce at the same time.
perfect.
The brain is something that is very plastic.
Mm.
It shapes itself the way you shape it.
The brain
So
elasticity. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's very elastic. And all you need to do is to learn how to train it.
Mm,
So what I did is that I started with the exercise that was easier for me in the beginning, which is to read something in the other language. And then your brain gets used to, or it polishes or develops
mm,
this skill.
mm.
And you know, when neurons get a path, that's it. خلاص, you have
That's it.
already shaped a
Yeah.
path.
It
That's it.
the
Exactly.
algorithm is there and it just needs to
خلاص.
be activated by
Like
challenge.
neurons, yes,
Mhm.
neurons that fire together, wire together.
Yeah.
So you wire your
I love
brain.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can
And
you
now
say it again? I think I'll quote that for you, of course.
it's not mine, by the way, but neurons, neurons that fire together, wire together.
Okay, perfect.
If your
Yeah.
neurons that I don't want to get too technical,
Mm,
the Broca's area and
yeah.
the
Wernick.
you know, the Wernicke, yeah, and when they work
Mm,
simultaneously, and you did something, you have achieved one part of the process,
yeah.
you see,
Yeah.
and the other part is the auditory part, but then processing the auditory input becomes easier since you are used to processing the read content, the written content.
This is very scientifically oriented kind of discussion. I mean, it's
Mm,
going to be very useful for the audience who are interested in this kind of talk, of course.
mm,
Let's talk about the habitual aspect of it. Taking that into application in reality, how did
mhm.
you develop yourself using this kind of model, scientifically speaking, and applying it on yourself in the real life?
Hmm. Real life, as in professional practice.
Yes, definitely. Starting from the beginning.
Yeah. Like I said, I used to do this exercise. And by the way, I still do it
Hmm.
because you're never there. You're never there. You always need to polish your tools. So, yes,
If you
I'm
don't
trying
use it, you lose
to.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, when I started, I jumped in very very aggressively. I would
Uh,
take up an assignment on my own,
yeah.
and what I did is that I was an intern in an agency,
Yeah.
and what I did is that smart people make very good use of their interns,
Mm,
and it's have very very,
I know.
I wouldn't say basic salary, but uh,
But let's be
not.
honest.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
be
not
honest. That
hardly paid.
that part of your career was the best part to reshape your personality. I mean, don't you
It was,
think?
of course, definitely. So
You
yes,
have been matured and maturated, if that is a word in English, but the
mhm,
maturation of the process of becoming an interpreter
mhm.
needs so much, kind of like tapping on your skills and so many
And
challenges.
pushing yourself to,
Yeah,
to the edge of it. And
yeah.
every time you push one level, one higher level, and so on, that was very useful.
Uh-huh.
And the
So as an
assignment,
intern,
I was an intern, and I
huh?
used to get like 30 days of interpretation every month.
Oh my God.
Every month. And in many of them, I worked solo. In many of them, I worked solo. Good.
Uh-huh.
So that was good for the
So how many
agency.
hours on each task?
Wallahi, unprofessionally, that would run up to 8 hours.
Every day?
No, not every day. Every day,
So on average, on every
it,
day, how
it,
many
it
hours?
depends, actually. It depends. Like
It's variable,
sometimes,
of course, but
yeah,
on
yeah,
average.
sometimes I would be with someone, sometimes I would be on my own. And in the beginning, I couldn't do that. Like
Mm,
I started like early 2006 I jumped in
mm.
practically in December 2005.
Okay.
Okay. And took it up from there.
Okay. My side of the story is a bit different. The kind of territory of stress that I've gone through is a bit different. Doesn't necessarily mean it's better or worse. 2007, I jumped into that kind of wagon, and
Mm,
there was a hiring agency in Baghdad with the American Army they were
Mhm.
hiring interpreters for the American Army and who are dispatched in different areas of Iraq as
Mhm.
what we used to call FOB, Field Operation Base. And
Mhm.
they sent me to Abu Ghraib. The agency uh, called, I think it was called GLS, yes, Global Language Solutions. And they sent me to Abu Ghraib, and Abu Ghraib was a battlefield at that time. So that was a good testament of me working in the beginning as a under stress, trying to navigate the territory of interpreters and uh, the kind of challenges that I've seen were, varying from receiving bullets to IEDs on the way back to the base and all of that. You had to like translate and interpret so much during that period of time. I
That's next
think
next level stress. No, I cannot
it's
claim.
uh it's a kind of stress that probably uh interpreters at the UN agencies or interpreters at UN HQ in New York, people in different areas of the world struggle to go through. So my question to you is, how do you manage stress when you're interpreting?
Mm. Stress in this case is only cognitive, you
Oh,
see?
so by the way,
Mm.
just not to lose the track of my thought,
Mm.
you talked in the meeting about cognitive loads. I highly
Mm.
appreciate if you can tell us a little bit more about that, because I
Yeah.
think it goes in tandem with stress.
Of course, of course. Okay, cognitive load can be caused by so many things. First, let's remember that you're there in the booth
Yeah,
with the headset on and you're trying to process, produce at this exactly, yeah, that's our friend. You
yeah,
see? So, one thing is the topic itself.
yeah.
If you're not familiar with the topic,
You
this
have
is a big
to be familiar agendas
exactly.
and any
You have
kind
to
of things,
study
right?
actually. You
Yeah.
have to do your homework, study
Mm.
very well, prepare the terminology, and this is how you navigate your way through the field.
Mm,
Like you need to be aware of all the concepts, not only the terminology, by the way, the
mm,
concept as well, because terminology alone is like islands or like dots. They need to be connected
yeah,
with you understanding the field and the concepts in general.
definitely, definitely.
So yeah, this is one thing which can be very problematic if you don't have any background about the topic. And then there is the speaker.
Mm.
Okay, let me tell you something. So the topic itself is something that you need to be very aware of.
Number
Okay.
one, yeah.
The more complex the topic is, the more challenging your work would be. Okay. So the other thing is that you need to be in an optimal situation. That is,
Mm.
you need to have good audio coming in without any buzz or what have you. The audio needs to be very good. And of course, there is the speaker themselves. If the speaker is too fast, that's a problem. And the worse,
Mm.
and even worse than a fast speaker is a speaker who's not being coherent.
Yeah, about the
So you,
ideas that they're presenting.
yeah, they would talk about something. You're just like a driver
Mm.
who's following a car. So like now I'm driving and we're going straight, and then suddenly they go somewhere else.
Like,
So it's like, oh,
derail.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Like I did not predict that because much of what we do depends on anticipation.
so
Like you're talking.
in this moment, do you translate to the target audience that the speaker has just shifted the topic, or you just deliver a generic kind of interpretation about what's going on? What is your approach to this kind of scenario?
In this case, you can do the following. First, you try to make sense of what they're doing. Maybe when they digressed, it's
Hmm.
like because they're giving an introduction to an idea they started and they felt that they need to give you a background about, and they then go back to the main idea.
Mm.
So in this case, I would, just follow them and try to make sense of what has been said.
Connecting the dots.
Hopefully,
Mhm.
in the language they speak, they would have made sense.
Do you
Hopefully.
speak? Do you interpret to other languages or just English and
Yeah,
Arabic?
English, Arabic.
Okay,
Mm.
sounds good. Sounds good. Um, yeah, of course, there's so many questions actually to be addressed at this period of time, but I think
So
there is a
yes,
constraint about time for Zoom here. What did you want to say?
I was telling you about the challenges and the things
Yes,
that
yes.
make the cognitive load,
Uh-huh.
that would increase the cognitive load. So it's the speed of the speaker,
Coherence?
the coherence of the speaker, and the accent of the speaker.
Oh
These,
my God.
yeah,
That's
these are
that's
some of
another
the,
fish to fry.
yeah, these are some of the challenging things that we go through. But sometimes when you get used to the speaker,
Mm.
you know how they would say a word and so on, and then you pick it and you take it from there.
The rise of AI, is it going to be a replacement to interpreters or is it going to be an assistive tool to them?
It will be.
It will be.
Not now. Um, okay, let's talk about translation.
Mm,
The AI tools that are available, even the ones who are, the ones which you need to subscribe to,
mm,
are not good in conceptual relations between
mm,
sentences. So, and most of the time, ideas are not linear.
mm.
So it is good in linear processing, but most
But
of the time,
there's a layer of a metaphor or reference or implication that
mm,
maybe cannot be deducted based on the algorithm of writing, linguistically speaking. I mean, if you look
mm,
at the syntax of English, or more challenging level, Arabic, there is
mhm,
another layer of indication that either implies something or refers to something, or a metaphor, something
mhm,
within kind of territory here. Uh,
mhm.
but the question is, based on what you have just presented, do you think translators and interpreters in particular need to be ready for the next phase of AI as a replacement, or should they jump the wagon and equip themselves with modern technology just to adopt it as part of their work protocol?
AI now is going to make the need exclusive to those who know the people who know how
Mm,
language works, how interpretation works, those who can chunk it into pieces and help improve
mm,
the AI and the other, all forms of AI, help chunk the
mm,
process into pieces and then connect them together. But the
mm.
thing that is delaying it, or the challenge for now, and by the way, when we say now, maybe tomorrow it's not going to be the case. I mean,
Yeah,
literally tomorrow.
yeah.
So far, the connection would be, let's talk about this constellation of AIs we need. Okay, we need a model that transcribes.
Mm,
Okay, ممكن maybe to transcribe, and then a model that either reads the transcription and produces the translation, or takes the
mm,
audio input and or takes the audio input into an audio output, and then it could be something that that translates that gives machine translation,
mm,
that machine translates, produces it, and then it would be text to speech rather than speech to text. I think that is the primitive way of putting it. I think it's going to be much more sophisticated than this,
mm,
but to tell you the truth, it's going to happen.
mm,
Now, my problem with AI translation is that it does not get conceptual relations between sentences, and to a lesser degree between phrases within the sentence.
mm,
If people rely on it, it is it, when you look at the text, it reads Well, but when you read it, you say, I don't understand. Maybe the topic
Yeah.
is too complicated. But as a linguist, it's not that you don't understand, it's that it's
Well,
not.
I was just listening to a podcast recently, and they were talking about the linguistic hallucination of AI within that
Mhm,
aspect, and they're working on developing a new model of algorithm just to overcome it.
mhm,
That takes some time, of course.
mhm,
Uh, However, the issue of AI has been, a big issue for not only um, interpreters and translators, but also for software engineers who have
mhm,
hundreds have, if not thousands, have lost their jobs to AI,
mhm,
especially within big corporate companies like Twitter, Google, Apple, etc. With the advent of AI, of course. I My take on it is a bit different. I think that translators and interpreters should work on adopting it and embracing it and using it as a tool to perfect and polish their work and make it better, because that's going to shorten the period of time of communication among cultures and among agencies and for companies who want to sign the contract and move on to the next, parts of implementation. Mona, I really appreciate your time and dedication to this job. I think you're a role model for so many interpreters and translators in Middle East and around the globe. And I was hoping actually that you kickstart a kind of channel on YouTube so you can just introduce the ABCs of translation for the new generation of interpreters. Um, but this is for future, of course. For now, do you have any final comments on being a translator? Lessons learned, tips for the next generation of translators?
hmm. I would say this is a very interesting job. It's not a typical job. Every day you go into an adventure of a different
Mm,
topic and different field with different people. So you get to know about forensics and you get to know
yeah,
about ecology and you get to know about so many things. So yes, it is a very interesting job and you are exposed to so many things. So you would know a little about everything
of course.
or many things.
Ms. Mona Khalifat, I really appreciate your coming to this podcast and this interview. I promise I will do the editing for the video and send you the link to it to enjoy watching it. And I'm 100% sure that people are not going to only benefit from the kind of conversation and the wonderful experience and the spectrum of you know challenges that you've had as an interpreter, but also to consider you as a role model in the field of translation and interpretation. The kind of experience that you have speaks volumes about the challenges of translation and interpretation. And I think it's a land. Uh, it's a land full of mines for novice translators and interpreters, and the only way to armor yourself against these kind of weird or anonymous vocabulary that come across your ears is to be ready to, as you said, do your homework before the task. Be ready to learn the conceptual notes and also the ideas and concepts and terminology of the field, and to be ready for the next adventure and next chapter of, you know, conference translation or meeting translation. Muna, thank you very much for this lovely chat. I look forward to talking to you in the future on another, topic relevant to interpretation and translation.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.
You too. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.